Mark lived in a large, quiet house at the edge of the city. The walls were white, the floors always clean, and soft music played from hidden speakers. The house was smart. It could cook food, clean the floor, and even remind him of meetings. But it could not fill the silence that followed after his wife, Anna, passed away 2 years ago. Mark was a rich man, a successful businessman who made money from smart machines. People called him a genius, but inside, he was just a tired man with a broken heart. Since Anna's death, he had changed. He stopped going to parties, stopped talking to friends, and only focused on work and his little daughter, Lila. Lila was 5 years old, bright, cheerful, and full of questions. She had her mother's brown eyes and sweet smile. She didn't understand where her mother went. Mark told her that Anna was in the stars, watching over her. But he knew that words were not enough. That's why he hired Mira. Mira was Lila's nanny. She came every morning at 8 o'clock and left exactly at 6 o'clock. She took care of Lila like a gentle shadow, always near, always calm. She had smooth black hair, soft hands, and eyes that held silence. She didn't talk much, didn't ask questions, and never shared her personal life. Mark noticed how quickly Lila grew attached to Myra. She listened to her stories, laughed at her jokes, and even copied how Mira tied her hair. Sometimes Mark watched them from his office window, Lila running. In the garden, Mira watching with a quiet smile. He felt thankful and curious. One evening, something unusual happened. Mark was sitting in his study, reading reports. Layla ran into the room, holding her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy," she said, "Myra glows at night." Mark blinked. "What do?" "You mean sweetheart?" Leela giggled. "I saw her outside my window yesterday. She had lights all around her, like stars." He frowned. Maybe it was the garden lights? "No, it was magic lights," she whispered. Mark smiled, kissed her forehead, and told her to get ready for bed. But her words stayed in his mind like a song that wouldn't stop. That night, Mark sat in front of his home computer and opened the camera logs. The house had security cameras in every corner, part of his smart safety system. He searched for the garden video at the time Leela mentioned. He saw Mira walking alone in the garden. She paused near the flowers, looked up at the sky, and then the camera glitched. The screen turned white for 2 seconds, then returned to normal. Mira was gone. Then, a few seconds later, she reappeared walking back toward the house. Mark stared at the screen. What just happened? He ran a system. Check no errors. The cameras had never failed before. He played the clip again. Same glitch. Same strange pause. Something didn't feel right. The next day, Mark acted normal. At breakfast, he smiled at Mira and asked if everything was okay. She nodded politely. In the evening, when Mira said goodbye and walked out the gate, Mark quietly followed. He wore a black coat, kept his distance, and stayed in the shadows. Mira walked with her usual calm steps, not looking back even once. She didn't take the main road. Instead, she crossed the park, moved through narrow alleys, and entered an old part of the city. Mark followed carefully, heart beating fast. After almost 30 minutes, she reached an old greenhouse half covered in vines and broken glass. Mira looked around, then stepped inside. Mark hid behind a wall, close enough to see through a broken window. What he saw made him freeze. Mira stood in the center of the room. Her eyes closed, her hands lifted slowly. Around her, small blue lights floated in the air like fireflies. They moved in patterned circles and waves. Then, her wrist began to glow. A bright blue symbol appeared, like a star with sharp edges. For a second, her eyes opened, and they were not brown anymore. They were silver, glowing. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He stepped back, heart racing. "What is she?" he whispered. He stayed there for a few more minutes. Mira stood still, as if listening to something only she could hear. Then, the lights vanished, and she opened her eyes again, normal, brown, human. She turned and walked out of the greenhouse. Mark quickly turned away and walked back home before she could notice him. At home, he sat in the dark, thinking. His mind was full of questions. Who was Myra? Why did her wrist glow? What were those lights? Was Lila in danger? He remembered something Leela had said days ago. Mira talks to the stars. Mark didn't sleep that night. He kept watching the video clip again and again. He didn't believe in magic, but what he saw was not normal. Maybe Mira wasn't just a nanny. The next morning, the house was quiet as usual. Sunlight came through the big windows, and the smell of toast filled the kitchen. Lila sat at the table, swinging her legs while Mira helped her with her hair. Mark stood nearby, pretending to look at his tablet, but his mind was somewhere else. He kept stealing small glances at Mira. She looked the same, calm, polite, careful with her words. But Mark now saw something different, something hidden. Her hands moved smoothly, her eyes stayed steady, and her smile was soft, but inside her, he felt something powerful. Something she was keeping secret. He remembered the glowing symbol on her wrist. The silver eyes. The floating lights. Mark had seen many strange things in his business world, advanced tech, secret experiments, but nothing like this. Mira was not normal. He was sure of it now. After breakfast, Mira took Leela to the garden. Mark quietly watched them from his study window. Mira held Leela's hand and walked slowly through the flowers. Leela pointed at butterflies, laughed, and asked questions, like always. Mira answered patiently. Mark noticed that birds always came near Mira. Butterflies sat on her shoulder without fear. Even the wind seemed gentle around her. It was almost like nature listened to her. That afternoon, Mark made a decision. He would follow her again. When evening came, Mira prepared to leave, just like every day. She packed her bag, said goodbye, and stepped out of the house. Mark waited 5 minutes, then grabbed his coat and followed from a distance. This time, he brought a small camera in his pocket. He needed proof. He needed answers. Mira walked the same path again through the park, across the empty street, into the old part of the city. Her steps were quiet, but full of purpose, like she knew exactly where she was going. Mark stayed in the shadows. Once or twice, she paused and looked around, but she didn't see him. Finally, she reached the same broken greenhouse. Mark stayed low behind a rusted fence. Mira entered the greenhouse and closed the door behind her. Carefully, Mark moved closer. He found a gap in the glass wall, just big enough to peek through. Inside, the air shimmered faintly, like heat waves on a summer road. Mira stood in the middle of the room. Her eyes were closed again. She placed both hands in the air, palms up. The space around her slowly began to glow. Small lights appeared, blue and white, spinning gently. They floated like tiny stars. Mark's eyes widened. Then her wrist lit up again. The same blue symbol. This time, it glowed even brighter. A soft sound filled the air like music, but not from any instrument Mark knew. It sounded ancient, peaceful. Suddenly, Mira opened her mouth and began to speak, but not in English. Her words were soft and flowing, full of echoes. The lights around her responded, changing color, moving faster. Mark's camera shook in his hand. He quickly recorded everything. Then, something unexpected happened. A shape formed in the air above Mira. It looked like a small map, of 3D image of stars and lines. Mark didn't recognize any of it, but he understood one thing. This wasn't just magic. This was some kind of communication. Mira was talking to someone. Or something. After a few minutes, the lights slowly faded. The glowing symbol disappeared. Mira opened her eyes. She looked tired but peaceful. She walked to the edge of the greenhouse and pressed a small button hidden under a rock. A part of the ground opened slightly, revealing a small round object, metallic and shining. Mark quickly ducked lower. He didn't want her to see him. Mira picked up the object, placed it in her bag, and walked out of the greenhouse. Mark stayed still. Heart pounding, he waited until she was gone, then carefully entered the greenhouse. The air was cool, and the place smelled of old leaves and earth. He stepped into the middle where Mira had stood. There were strange marks on the ground circles, lines glowing faintly. He reached into his pocket and took a few photos. Then, he noticed something on the wall. A drawing, almost invisible. A symbol like the one on Mira's wrist. But it was much older, scratched into the stone. Below it, in small letters, were words in English. "We walk among you not to rule, but to protect." Mark stood still. The words echoed in his mind. Protect? Protect what? Or who? That night, Mark returned home with too many questions. He locked his door, pulled down the curtains, and opened his laptop. He watched the video again. Mira, the lights, the map, the symbol. He searched online for the glowing symbol. Nothing matched. He searched for ancient languages, for secret protectors, for beings of light. Still nothing. Then he remembered something, an old book in his library. It had belonged to Anna. He found it on the top shelf. It was a travel journal, written by a professor who believed in hidden visitors from other planets. Most people thought the book was silly. But now Mark wasn't so sure. He opened the book and flipped through the pages. On one page, he froze. There was a drawing, a wrist with a blue star symbol below it. The Centauri light beings sent to Gachis. Protect Earth's future. Mark stared at the page. Centauri. Could Mira be one of them? Why was she with his daughter? Was Leela special? Suddenly, Mark's computer beeped. A new message had appeared. No sender. No subject. Just 5 words. You should not have followed. Mark's blood ran cold. He looked at the window. Nothing there. He looked at the door. Still locked. Then the message disappeared on its own. He sat in silence. The room cold around him. Something had changed, and now Mira knew. Mark didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study with the lights off, the soft glow of his laptop screen lighting his tired face. The message "you should not have followed" kept playing in his mind like an alarm bell. Someone or something had sent it. No name, no trace, but Mark already knew who it was from Mira, the quiet, gentle nanny who looked after his daughter. The same woman he had seen glowing in an abandoned greenhouse. She wasn't just a nanny anymore. She wasn't even just a woman. She was something else. Something not from this earth. Still, the strange part was Mark didn't feel afraid. He felt curious and maybe a little amazed. The next morning was cloudy. A light fog rested over the garden, as if the world had paused. Mark made breakfast as usual: eggs, toast, and warm milk for Lila. Mira entered at 8 o'clock sharp, like always. She wore a soft blue dress, her hair tied back simply. Calm as ever, but this time, Mark saw the difference. He saw how she moved graceful, too perfect. He saw how her eyes noticed every small thing. She didn't just look, she watched. And when she touched a fallen flower in the garden, the petals closed gently, like they knew her. Mark couldn't pretend anymore. After Leela finished breakfast and went to play with her toys, Mark spoke quietly. "Mira," he said, "I think we need to talk." Mira looked at him. Her face was calm, but her eyes changed. The softness in them became serious. "I know you followed me," she said softly. Mark was silent. "I didn't mean to spy," he said, "but I had to know." Mira nodded. "And now you know more than you should." Mark sat down. "What are you?" There was a long pause. Mira looked out the window. The wind touched the trees, and the leaves rustled gently. "I am a Centauri," she said at last, "from a planet far beyond your stars. We came to Earth a long time ago, not to take over. Not to harm, but to help." Mark leaned forward. "Help who?" "Your kind," Mira said. "Humans." She stood near the window and touched the glass. "Earth is special. It grows life in a way most planets cannot. It's full of emotion, creativity, hope. But it's also full of danger, some of it from outside your world. Mark tried to understand. And you live among us? Yes, she replied. We live quietly. We choose people to protect. Some are leaders. Some are scientists. Some are children. Mark's heart began to race. Why Leela? He asked. Mira turned and looked at him, her voice softer now. Because of Anna, your wife. Mark froze. What do you mean? Mira walked toward the table and sat down. She looked at him gently. 2 years before Anna died, she saved someone. Very important to us. A child, one of our kind. The child was injured and hiding in a storm. Anna found her and brought her to safety. She didn't know what the child was. She just helped. Mark remembered that time. Anna had gone on a solo hiking trip. When she came back, she had a strange story about finding a lost girl in the woods. She said the girl disappeared without a trace the next day. She told me about that, Mark whispered. We thought the girl was just lost. She wasn't, Myra said. She was one of us. Because of Anna's kindness, we gave our promise. We would protect her family line. Tears touched Mark's eyes. She never even knew. She didn't have to, Myra said. She acted from her heart. Mark took a deep breath. And now you're here for Lila, Myra nodded. Yes, I was sent to stay close. To watch. To protect, even if you never knew. Mark looked at her carefully. So all this time, everything you did, it was to keep Leela safe? Yes, Mira said. But something has changed. That's why I went to the greenhouse. A signal has been detected. Someone else knows about Lila. Someone dangerous. Who? Mark asked quickly. Myra hesitated. They are called the Valari, she said. They are not like us. They want power, not peace. A long time ago, they fought the Centauri and lost. But they are not gone. They search for ways to return. And now they know about Leela? Mark asked, his voice full of worry. Yes, Mira said, and they may come. That is why I contacted my people. I need help. I cannot protect her alone. Mark stood up and walked to the window. Lila was outside, chasing butterflies in the garden. His hands trembled. I don't care what planet you're from, he said quietly, but if my daughter is in danger, I want to protect her too. Mira stood up. You will, but you must trust me. Mark looked at her. I already do. That night, after Leela went to sleep, Mira walked to the garden. Mark followed her. She pressed her palm to the ground under the tree where Lila liked to play. A soft blue light appeared. The grass moved aside, and a small hidden hatch opened. Inside was something Mark had never seen, a small device, round and glowing with soft rings of light. Mira lifted it carefully. This is a beacon, she said. It connects me to the Centauri world. She touched the beacon, and it rose into the air, spinning slowly. A soft voice spoke in a language Mark didn't understand. Mira listened and replied in the same voice. Then, the light turned green. They heard me, Myra said. Help is coming, but we must stay hidden. Mark nodded. What do I tell Lila? Mira smiled gently. Nothing yet. Just love her. Play with her. She needs to feel normal. Mark looked at the stars above. His mind was full. Just days ago, he thought Mira was a normal woman. Now he knew she was something else, something far beyond human. But she had been sent to protect his daughter, and for that, Mark was thankful. The sky was gray the next morning. Clouds moved fast across the sun, and the wind had a strange chill in it. Mark stood at the kitchen window, watching the garden. The air felt different now, like something big was coming. Lila sat at the table with her cereal and drew pictures on a napkin. One of the drawings showed Mira with glowing hands. Another showed Lila standing under stars. Mark smiled but felt a tightness in his chest. Children saw things that adults often missed. Mira entered the kitchen quietly. She wore a soft white dress today. Her eyes met Mark's, and for a moment, They said everything without a word. They both knew what was coming. After breakfast, Mira helped Leela with her reading. Mark waited until Leela was busy with her books, then called Mira outside. They stood under the old tree where the beacon had been hidden. "I need to know everything," Mark said. "No more secrets." Mira looked up at the sky. The clouds were thicker now. "All right," she said. "It's time." They sat on the garden bench. The wind moved the leaves gently. Mira began to speak. "My real name is not Mira," she said softly, "but I chose this name because it means peace in one of your languages." Mark listened carefully. "I was born far from here, on a planet called Centaura. My kind, the Centauri, have lived for thousands of years. We are not soldiers. We are watchers, helpers. We guide without ruling." She looked at her hands. "We can move light, speak without words, and sense emotions. But we are not gods. We feel pain. We love. We lose." Mark asked, "How long have you been on Earth?" "Almost 8 years now," Myra replied. "I was trained for this mission. I studied your languages, your history, your behavior. When Anna saved the Centauri child, our council sent me to protect her family. That meant being close, becoming someone trusted. That's why I became Leela's nanny." Mark thought of all the years Mira had been with them, her quiet care, her calm voice, her gentle smile. She had been part of their lives like family. "And what about now?" he asked. "Why are the Valari coming?" Mira's face turned serious. "They were once like us," she said, "but they changed. They wanted to control life, not guide it. They destroyed their own world with their greed and anger. Now they search for new homes. They fear your world because it gives hope, and they fear children like Leela." Mark looked confused. "Children like Leela?" Mira nodded slowly. "She is part of something rare. When Anna saved the Centauri child, she touched our energy. Some of that energy passed into her. And when she gave birth to Leela, a small piece of that light was passed on." Mark's eyes widened. "You mean Leela isn't just human?" "She is human," Mira said with a gentle smile. "But she also carries a spark of Centauri energy, a connection. That makes her special." Mark sat back, shocked. "Does Lila know?" "No," Myra said, "and we should keep it that way, for now." "But the Valari, how do they know?" "Energy speaks," Mira replied. "The stronger it grows, the easier it is to find. That's why I use the greenhouse to hide her signal with my own. But now they've noticed." Mark's heart beat faster. "Will they come for her?" Mira looked him in the eyes. "Yes, but I will not let them take her." Later that day, Mark stayed close to Leela. He took her to the park while Myra watched from a distance. Leela played on the swings and ran through the grass, laughing and free. Mark tried to smile, but his thoughts were heavy. He remembered holding Lila for the first time in the hospital. Her tiny hand had gripped his finger so tightly. She was his whole world. Now, the world was changing. That night, after Lila was asleep, Mark walked into the garden. Mira stood under the stars. Her hands were behind her back, her eyes on the sky. "I can't believe all this," Mark said quietly. "Aliens, energy, danger. I thought my biggest problem was running my company." Mira smiled faintly. "The universe is always bigger than our plans." He stood beside her. "So what do we do now?" "We prepare," Mira said. "I have tools hidden below this ground. A small Centauri craft is buried under the garden. It is old, but strong. I can use it to build a protection field." Mark raised an eyebrow. "There's a spaceship under my garden?" Mira nodded. "Only a small one," Mark chuckled nervously. "That's new." He became serious again. "What can I do?" Mira looked at him with gentle strength. "You've already done something powerful. You believed me. That is the first step." Mark shook his head. "That's not enough. I'm not a warrior. I'm not like you. You are a father, Mira said. That makes you stronger than you know. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Mira added, but if you truly want to help, I'll teach you how. Over the next few days, Mira worked in secret while Mark kept Leela distracted. He used his money and connections to get advanced tools, batteries, and shield parts without telling anyone what they were for. Mira showed him how to connect the parts to the buried craft. She guided him through energy readings, protective field lines, and silent alarm systems. Mark learned fast. It surprised even him. You're good at this, Mira said one night. Mark smiled. Maybe I missed my calling. No, she said. Your true calling is right here. She looked at the house where Leela was asleep in her room. One evening, as they finished setting the last energy node near the back gate, Mira suddenly paused. Her face turned still. Her eyes became sharp. What is it? Mark asked quickly. There. Close, she said. The Velari. I can feel them now, watching. Mark's breath caught. Are they coming tonight? Mira nodded slowly. Maybe not tonight. But soon, very soon. Mark looked toward Leela's window, where a small light glowed. I won't let them take her, he said. Mira looked at him. You won't have to, she whispered. We'll protect her together. The sky turned dark earlier than usual. A strange wind blew across the garden, cold and sharp, even though it was summer. The trees swayed hard, and the lights in the backyard flickered once. Then again. Mark stood at the window, watching the clouds. He felt it in his chest, a tension, like the world was holding its breath. Inside the house, Leila was coloring quietly on the floor. Mira was in the basement, making final checks on the protective systems they had built. Mark walked down the stairs and found Mira near the old trapdoor where the small Centauri ship was hidden. She was placing glowing stones into slots along the ship's edge. Each stone hummed softly, like a song only she could hear. Is it ready? He asked. Mira looked up and nodded. The shield will hold for a while. It covers the house and garden. It can keep us hidden from the Velari's scanners for one more night. Mark frowned. Just one night? Mira stood and faced him. They're almost here. I can feel their presence. They're watching from the sky, waiting. Mark's fists clenched. What do they want with Leila? She is not just a child to them, Mira said. She is a threat. A child with a spark of Centauri light is a future they fear. They want to stop that future. Mark shook his head. She's just a little girl. She's more than that, Mira said gently. But still a child. And that's why she must be protected. Later that evening, Mark sat beside Leila as she brushed her doll's hair. She smiled up at him. Daddy, why do you look worried? Mark smiled softly and touched her head. Just thinking, sweetheart. She giggled. You think too much. He chuckled, then pulled her into a hug. She wrapped her arms around his neck, warm and safe. After putting Leila to bed, Mark joined Mira outside. The shield had been activated. A soft blue shimmer surrounded the house, invisible from the street, but clear through Mira's Centauri lens. Mark looked up at the sky. Do you think they'll attack tonight? Maybe, Mira said. Or maybe they're waiting for the shield to fall. Mark turned toward her. You said the ship is old. How long can it keep the shield up? Mira answered quietly. Maybe 10 hours, no more. And after that, then we fight. Midnight came. Suddenly a strange humming filled the air. It was low at first, like distant thunder, but it grew louder. Lights in the house dimmed for a second. Mark ran to the window. Above the trees, dark shapes floated silent and smooth, like black stones in the sky. They didn't flash lights. They didn't make sharp sounds. But they were there. Velari. Mira appeared beside him. They're scanning. The shield shimmered slightly, reacting to the pressure. Mira quickly went to the control panel near the hidden ship and placed her hand on it. Lines of blue light spread out like roots through the garden soil. The ship responded with a soft pulse. "We have to hold it," she said. "If they find a weak spot, they'll break through." Mark joined her. "What can I do?" "Stay close to Lila," Mira said. "If they enter, the shield will trap time inside the house for a few seconds. Use that moment to run to the ship." "I'll meet you there." Mark hesitated. "And you?" Mira looked at him. "I'll hold them off." Suddenly, a loud vibration shook the ground. A flash of red light hit the shield from above. Sparks flew in the air. "They're testing us," Mira said. "But they won't stop there." Mark grabbed his emergency bag just in case. Inside was a small beacon Mira had given him, a special cloak for Lila, and some food. Then, the shield let out a high-pitched sound. One of the energy stones near the back fence dimmed. "Myra!" Mark shouted. "One of the nodes is dying." Mira rushed to it and placed her palm on the stone. Her eyes glowed silver as she sent her energy into the system. The stone lit up again, but Myra fell to her knees weak. Mark ran to her side. "You're hurt." She shook her head. "Just tired. Giving energy to the shield drains me." Mark helped her up. "Let me do something. Anything." Mira looked into his eyes. "You already are. You're standing by us." Then she handed him a small disc. "Take this. If anything happens to me, press the center. It will guide the ship out of danger. You'll need to protect Lila." Mark took the disc, his hand shaking. "You're not going anywhere. We stay together." The Valari ship above the sky glowed brighter now. A second blast hit the shield. The air turned warm, and a strange red mist spread near the edge of the house. Suddenly, everything went still. Mira stood tall and lifted her arms. Her body began to glow with bright white light. "Time to send them a message," she said. She pointed both hands toward the sky. A beam of pure light shot upward. It hit the red mist and pushed it back. The Valari ship above shook, its edges flickering. Mark watched in amazement. Mira was more than he ever imagined. But then, the ground trembled again. A Valari pod broke through the outer shield and landed near the tree. It opened slowly, and a tall, shadowy figure stepped out. Its body was dark gray, its face smooth and cold. No mouth, no eyes. Only a red glow at the center of its head. Mira stepped forward, weak but determined. "You're not welcome here," she said. The creature raised its hand. A wave of dark energy rushed toward Mira. Mark shouted, "Mira!" But she didn't move. She lifted her hand and absorbed the energy blast into her palm. Her body shook from the force, and she dropped to one knee again. Mark couldn't watch anymore. He grabbed a tool from the ground, a long metal rod used for the shield, set up and ran toward the creature. "Stay away from my family," he shouted. He swung the rod with all his strength. The Valari turned, surprised. Mark's blow hit its arm, causing a small crack in its outer skin. The creature screeched a high, painful sound. Mira used that moment to send a second light blast. From her hand, the Valari fell back and vanished in a flicker of black smoke. The pod exploded. Mira collapsed to the ground. Mark rushed to her side. "Mira, stay with me." She opened her eyes, weak but smiling. "You did well, Mark, very well." Mark held her hand. "Don't talk. Just rest." The shield glowed softly again. The sky above was empty. The Valari ship had vanished, but the battle wasn't over yet. The real storm had just begun. The house was quiet, but the air felt heavy. The ground still held the heat from the battle. Trees stood half-burned. Smoke drifted from the broken Valari pod. Lights around the garden blinked weakly, and the energy shield now glowed faint blue thin. Fragile. Inside, Mark gently laid Mira on the living room couch. Her skin was pale, her breathing slow. Lila stood nearby, holding her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide and full of worry. "Is Mira okay?" she asked. Mark nodded, trying to stay strong. She just needs rest, sweetheart. But inside he wasn't sure. Mira had used most of her energy fighting the Velari. Her body wasn't healing fast enough. He covered her with a warm blanket. Then went downstairs to the basement where the small Centauri ship rested. It was time to finish what they started. Mark worked for hours, checking every cable, every shield crystal, every warning light on the ship. The control panel showed signs of damage, but it was still usable. The energy level was low, but enough for one last shield or one quick escape. He placed the small control disk Mira had given him into the panel. The ship hummed softly, recognizing him. A female voice spoke in a calm alien language, then switched to English. Centauri ship, shield at 30%. Emergency escape path, ready. Mark stared at the glowing panel. Escape to where? He asked. The ship replied, hidden Centauri station near Mars orbit, so they had a backup plan. A safe place far from Earth. Mark nodded slowly, but leaving. Earth wasn't a simple choice. Later that night, Mira woke up. Her voice was soft and weak. Where is Lila? Mark walked over. She's safe, sleeping in your room. I told her you needed some quiet time. Mira tried to sit up, but Mark gently stopped her. Don't move too much. You're still healing. Mira smiled faintly. You've done so much. You're not the same man I met years ago. Mark sat beside her. People change when they have to, and when someone they love is in danger. Mira looked into his eyes. You're more than her father now. You're her protector. He nodded. I will do anything to keep her safe. Mira's eyes shimmered for a second. Then listen carefully. The Velari will return, in greater numbers. Mark's jaw tightened. Then we leave. We take the ship. Mira shook her head slowly. They'll follow. The moment we fly, they will track us. Then what do we do? Mira looked toward the ceiling, then back at Mark. There's only one way to stop them from chasing us. We must destroy the signal they follow. Mark blinked. What signal? Mira reached into her coat and took out a small crystal dimly. Glowing blue. It hides Lila's energy. But now it's damaged. It also acts like a magnet to the Velari. They can't find her directly, but they follow this. Mark held the crystal in his hand. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. If we destroy it, they'll lose the trail, Mira said. But it must be taken far away before it's destroyed. If it breaks here, it will only send out a stronger wave. Mark stood in silence for a long time. Then he looked at Mira. I'll do it. Mira's eyes widened. Mark, you're weak. Layla needs you more than ever now. I'll take the crystal far away. I'll draw them off. Once they follow me, you take Lila to safety. Use the ship. Go to that Centauri station. Mira reached for his hand. You may not come back. I know. The next morning, Mark stood in the garden ready. He wore a lightweight suit Mira had, pulled from the ship designed to handle spaceflight. The crystal was sealed in a black box that blocked energy. It would stay quiet until opened. Lila stood by the door, holding Myra's hand. Where are you going, Daddy? Mark knelt in front of her. He tried to smile. I'm going on a trip, a small one, to help Myra. Lila frowned. Can I come? Not this time, sweetheart, but I'll come back, I promise. Lila wrapped her arms around his neck. Okay. I'll wait. Mark hugged her tightly. Mira walked over. The ship has 2 emergency escape seats. Use one if things go wrong. But you only have one chance to drop the crystal and fly away. I understand, Mark said. Myra touched his forehead gently. Her fingers glowed for a moment. I've shared a little of my light with you. It will protect you for a short time. Mark felt a warmth in his chest. He nodded. Take care of her, he said, looking at Layla. Myra smiled. I will, as long as I breathe. Minutes later, Mark climbed into the small pod attached to the side of the Centauri ship. It was fast, silent, and almost invisible to Earth satellites. The pod rose into the sky, past the clouds, into space. Mark looked down one last time at the Earth below. Beautiful, peaceful. He flew toward the dark side of the moon, where Mira had told him to release the crystal. If he opened the box there, the Valari would detect it and follow. As the pod reached the moon's orbit, Mark opened the box. The crystal floated gently, glowing bright blue now. The ship sensors blinked. Warning, signal released. Energy wave active. Mark pressed the ejection button. The crystal shot out into space. Moments later, red dots appeared on the ship's radar. Valari vessels incoming. Mark's hands moved fast. He turned the ship sharply, flying away from Earth, toward the outer orbit. "Come on," he whispered. "Follow me." And they did. 3 Valari ships turned from Earth's direction and chased after him. Back on Earth, Mira saw the radar. The Valari had left Earth's path. She knew Mark had done it. Lila stood by her side, confused. "Where's Daddy now?" Mira placed her hand on Lila's shoulder. "He's buying us time to be safe." Mark's ship flew fast, but the Valari were faster. He could feel the engines shaking. One of the red ships got close. Suddenly, Mark remembered the second escape pod. He launched it. With a flash of light, it flew into the dark, away from the main ship. Mark's body floated inside the escape pod, breathing slowly. The light Mira had given him kept his heart steady. The Valari ships followed the first pod, believing the signal was still inside. They never saw the real one float away into the silence of space. The small escape pod drifted silently through space. Mark lay inside, his body light and calm, protected by the light Mira had shared. Outside the pod, stars twinkled like distant fires, cold and beautiful. Mark thought of Lila and Mira back on Earth. He hoped they were safe. He closed his eyes and let the quiet fill him. Back on Earth, Mira held Lila close. The house was quiet. The energy shield flickered weakly but still held strong. "Daddy is brave," Mira said softly to Lila. Lila nodded, wiping a tear. "Will he come back?" she asked. Mira smiled gently. "He will, because he loves you." They sat by the window, watching the stars. Meanwhile, Mark's pod slowly moved toward the Centauri station near Mars' orbit. It was a hidden place, safe from Valari eyes. As the pod approached, soft blue lights shone on the station's surface. Mark prepared to dock. Inside the station, Centauri watchers greeted him quietly. They were tall, elegant, with shining eyes and calm voices. One step forward. "Mark, you are safe here," she said. "You have done a great sacrifice." Mark smiled weakly. "I only want to protect my daughter." The Centauri leader nodded. "Your love has made you strong. We will help keep her safe." Days passed. On Earth, Mira and Lila stayed in the shielded house, protected by Centauri technology and Mark's sacrifice. Layla grew curious about her special nanny and her brave father. Mira told her stories of stars and light, of ancient protectors who watch over Earth. One afternoon, Mira took Lila to the garden. She pointed to the sky. "See those stars?" Mira asked. Lila smiled. "Daddy is there." "Yes," Mira said. "And one day, he will come home." Far away, Mark trained with the Centauri watchers. He learned to use their technology, to understand their ways. Though he was human, the light Mira shared helped him grow stronger. He learned how to protect Lila from any danger. He sent messages back to Earth through the Centauri network. Each message was full of hope. One day, while studying the stars, Mark received a message. The Valari were regrouping, planning a new attack, but this time, Mark and the Centauri were ready. He smiled, knowing that soon, the battle for Earth's future would begin again. Back on Earth, Mira watched Lila play in the garden. She felt peace for the first time in a long while. "Lila," Mira said, "you carry a special light, one that can change the future." Lila looked up at her, bright-eyed. "Will I be like you someday?" Myra smiled. "You already are." The sun set slowly. The house glowed softly under the stars. Mark's sacrifice was not the end. It was a new beginning, a beginning of hope, love, and protection for Lila, for Mira, and for all of Earth.